positive thing for our community. As part of the Loy Needs report, Council directed us to take on certain aspects of that report under Motion 160, 2018. And one of those directives was for us to come back and present a program or a policy that would remove financial barriers to low-income residents accessing recreation. So we had to do our homework. And at this point, I really do want to thank the Recreation and Culture team. They did a tremendous job of calling around to other communities and researching what sort of programs do their municipalities offer to low-income residents. And they came back with a lot of data. In fact, there were 18 different communities: Canmore, Brooks, High River, Fort Saskatchewan, Grand Prairie, Airdrie, Leduc, just to name a few. And we kind of got a synopsis of what other municipalities are doing to remove some of those financial barriers. Some of the more common practices, or the most common practice, is to evaluate eligibility for these programs using the low-income cutoff after tax produced by Statistics Canada. And they typically offered a range of discounts starting at as minimum of 50% off all the way up across the spectrum to free access to facilities. In some communities, they also tier these supports to other types of community programming and supports, so such as if they run a public transportation system, they may get a discounted or free access to public transportation. Larger centers like Calgary and Edmonton tie them into potential discounts off of property taxes or garbage fees, and things like that. So using the information gathered from the other communities, we put together a policy for consideration in Lloydminster. The gist of it is that we would, like many other communities, utilize the low-income cutoff after tax as a sort of the measure by which we would determine eligibility for the program. It would be offered to only 2 residents in Lloydminster, and that we would have a process developed to evaluate and improve the eligibility of people to receive a certain discount. I apologize, my notes. There we go. So for Lloydminster, looking at the low-income cutoff, or what is the low-income cutoff, and essentially the low-income cutoff is for persons, individuals or economic families that spend 20 percentage points more than the average of their after-tax income on food, shelter, and clothing. For our community, it's tiered by the population size. So a community that has a population under 30,000 falls into a certain category for what would be considered the low-income cutoff. Above or between 30,000 and 99,000 is where Lloydminster falls, and then there's another category for above that. So in our community, a single person who makes less than $18,000 a year would be considered under the low-income cutoff after tax. And for our community, that makes up about 1,800 people, or roughly 6% of our population would fall into this category. We did a little bit of calling around to some of the other communities that were collecting data on the uptake of their program to get a sense of if we were to offer a program or offer a discount in the community based on the low-income cutoff, what could we expect for uptake of the program? And it varies from community to community. Some communities have public transportation in place, some communities have different walkabilities, and some communities promote or offer different additional benefits with their package, so it's not necessarily apples and oranges when we're looking at the uptake in other communities. But we're seeing a bit of a range. The larger centers, Calgary and Edmonton, they range between 27 and 45%. We're sort of seeing kind of a mix between 16 to 45% uptake of the program based on how many of the residents would be eligible or fall under that low-income cutoff and how many actually uptake it. Also, there's an asterisk there, Medicine Hat, when we contacted them, they were just getting their program up and running, so their numbers were significantly lower because they were just getting started at it. And it takes a while for these programs to catch on in the community. For Lloydminster, I would project that the absolute most we would ever see for this program is probably a 40% uptake, or 700 or so participants. More likely, again, just because of the income levels of the population that we're dealing with and the ability to get around to different facilities, we're probably going to be more in the 10% range, or about 180, maybe 300 tops for our uptake. So, as I mentioned before, so that we've drafted a policy, and the basis of the policy is that we would have a program in place where persons would be evaluated based on their income as far as eligibility to receive a discount for the different city facilities. We've started working with the Recreation and Culture Department about what that process would look like in order to get people in. And what we've agreed upon is essentially the Social Programs and Services Department would handle all the intake. So people would apply through our department, and our department would evaluate their eligibility based on their income levels and proof of residency. And upon approval, we would issue them a letter and a mechanism to receive the discount at the facilities. They would then take that mechanism, which would be a card or a discount card of sorts, to the facility, and when they go to make a purchase of a membership or an admission, they would receive a discount on the purchase of the facility based on what's approved in the policy. The Recreation and Culture Department would handle all the transactions at the till, and they would also gather data on the usage of the program for audit later on. So again, getting a little more to the process side, maybe outside what's specifically spoken to in the policy, but to kind of give you a sense of what we'd be looking at. Essentially, to apply for the program, you'd get an application form at a facility, off the city website, or through one of our partner agencies. You'd fill out the application, and then you would include some form of verification of your residency and of your income. The verification of income could be your notice of assessment. It could be your documentation that you receive if you were on AISH or on SED, the subsidies provided through Ministries of Social Service on the Alberta or Saskatchewan side. Or we are also wanting to build an alternate mechanism, because we are going to run into residents that either need assistance with the forms and the paperwork, or maybe they are in a situation where they don't have access to those documents. And in such cases, we would accept a letter from an agency that knows their situation and can verify that they are under the criteria for the program, the income cutoff and the residency within our community. The idea being we want to offer the discount. We want to be mindful of that this is for a certain portion of our population, and it's for residents, but at the same time, we don't want to make it into a free-for-all or anything like that. So for benefits under the program, we are proposing a 75% reduction on membership costs to service Sportscenter by Oakley and Aquatic Center and the outdoor pool. A $2 admission fee for service Sportscenter by Oakley and Aquatic Center outdoor pool and the Lloydminster Cultural and Science Center for adults, and a $1 admission for youth 0 to 17. The intent is, and we've had some conversations with a few of our community partners to have some buy-in into the program. The idea is that we're reducing the costs, we're bringing it down, but at the same time, everyone who's participating genuinely wants to participate in the program. And we've tried to pick a number that won't create a barrier to their participation, but at the same time allows them to participate and contribute, much like other residents that are utilizing the facilities in the same manner. The 75% membership reduction cost is about the equivalency of a 75% reduction to admissions, but for logistics at the till, we decided to go with a flat number just to make it a little cleaner, so that someone can come and bring a toonie or a rooney and make those transactions a little bit easier for the desk and for people coming in. So we have identified some concerns that we have to take into consideration for the program. First and foremost, we want the process to provide applicants with dignity and privacy of their information. So some of the things that we're taking into consideration is when financial information is submitted to our department is not going to retain those documents on file. We will review it, we will create the letter approving them for the program, but after which time that the approval is made, the documents will be disposed of. So the only thing that will remain on file is that we'll have their initial application, and we will have a letter stating that they've been approved for the program. But we're not going to keep people's notice of assessment or whatever financial information they provide to us for the program. We also want to try to make the process at the till as seamless as possible for folks, so that their experience is no different than any other resident using our recreation facilities. That's why we've had, after several discussions with the Recreation and Culture Department, we settled on developing a discount card. The picture up there, that is just Patrick working over his lunch hour to have something in his hand. That is not a communications approved card. But the idea being something that looks nice, something that just says Recreation Access Program and identifies who would be eligible for the discount, and that they could show at the desk when they are purchasing a membership or admission. And once a membership is purchased, they wouldn't even need to bring that card anymore because they've got a membership. They would just use their regular membership file. If they're doing admissions, they would need to present that card each time. But that seemed to be the compromise in order to make the system work at the till. Another area of concern, misuse of cards. We have to consider the fact that people might share their cards, people might try to duplicate the cards. And it's going to happen. We already see some abuses of admission at facilities. People will try to slip in without paying, or, well, that's, I guess, the most common misuse, but it's sort of a problem across the board, not specific to one group or one population. For this, though, in order to try to be responsible and reduce misuse, the cards themselves, each will be numbered. The idea being that we would apply a sticker to each card as a bit of a security measure. It would have a code which then would be linked back to our database of who's been approved for the program. And we would also be conducting audits at the end of the year to look at the usage of the cards and how they were utilized at the different facilities. Over the long run, we'll continue to develop other ways and other mechanisms to make the cards a little bit more secure. But for the first year, we felt that we keep things fairly simple as we feel out the usage. And then financial impact on the city. The program will have some administrative time that goes into it. Recreation and Culture Department is going to spend a little bit of time training their staff and getting them used to the process, but once they're up and running, they'll essentially run through like any other transaction. The users of the program, we don't anticipate that these are current users. We're looking at some of the data that was done about the fees and rates study before. It didn't appear like we'd get a lot of folks that fall under the low-income cutoff using the facilities, and we feel that you will actually see a small increase in some revenue from the users of this program that are paying into it. They are subsidized, like all users of a recreation facility are subsidized, and I can't provide you with an exact rate of what that would be, but at the same time I can't provide you with an exact rate of what our regular users are subsidized at as well. So our outcomes for the program, we hope within the first year of the program that we'll have at least 180 users, or a 10% uptake on the program. We intend to survey our users of the program, and we hope to hear from them that they had a increase in their ability to access recreation programs as a result of the Recreation Access Program. And we're also hoping to hear from them that they feel an increase in their connection to the community as a result of the program. But we won't know that for sure until we've actually run it and had a chance to talk to them about the impact.
Thank you, Patrick. Questions? Councilor Rowe.
Just a quick question. You said that it's going to be distributed through different social services, and they're going to have access to people that they might think would benefit from it. Are you going to reach out to schools or anything like that in terms of letting them know that this program is available, or how are we going to advertise per se or market it or that sort of thing?
So we've had some preliminary conversations with communications, and we do feel leveraging our partnerships in the community is the best way to raise awareness of the program. So just that, working with the schools, working with our nonprofits, much like we leverage those contacts for the Deloitte community needs assessment. We want to, that will be our best bang for the buck as far as trying to get out to the community and get to the hard to reach populations that will benefit the most from this program.
Councilor Batchor.
Yeah, thank you. I really like where this piece is going. I think, and in the past we had after-school programs as well for students that otherwise would not be available either financially or because of childcare to participate in organized physical activities. So I think the public had some, and I think the Catholic school system has some now as well. So my question, I guess, is that if I'm a grade 4 student and I qualify and I now go to school and I'm going to take swimming lessons, does my dollar entry fee in any way give me a work during a program outside of general admission hours? So does it count if I go with a school activity or with the Boy and Girls Club or any other social organization? Does it only work when I show up alone?
If that individual is the one making the purchase at the till, their discount card would entitle them to the discount at the till.
I think you want to work with the school a little bit, because if you're bringing 40 kids down, do you pull 13 of them off and say you'll go buy independently? Or, so there's some logistical pieces in there I think that probably need to be worked out a bit. But if it can be used at any time, I think then, I know the schools will be more than grateful to be able to work with you around that, but just some front-end work around that, particularly with other agencies, probably needed.
Councilor.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Yeah, Councilor.
Thank you, Your Worship. First of all, I think it was a great program to come up with. We all know that there's underprivileged children around, and we should try and treat them all alike and make sure that they get out and enjoy the good things in life a little bit too. And it's well put together. I just have an extension to that, if I may, Your Worship, and it may not work, but as I read this report, I thought about our multiplex and our swimming pool and other things we have. And many of our rural neighbors contributed personal funds toward those facilities in both provincial governments. And I was wondering that there's lots of young people that live on the outskirts of our city or in the 2 arms in the county that may be in the same boat. I don't know that, but I assume there's some of that. And if their municipalities wanted to subsidize the difference and let them in on the program, is it something we could look at? I don't want a decision today. I'm just saying look at it because it's all kids and they all go to the same schools. And we say the city of Lloyd, and I understand why you say that. You can't include the world, but maybe our 2 RMs and county might be interested in being part of that. I would expect that the county would pick up, or the 2 RMs would subsidize the difference, just like the city is going to, if we go ahead, pick up the difference. So it might be food for thought, and I'd hate to see kids that live 5 miles out of town that make their home here and go to school here and live here, we might say, every day of the week, not be able to participate. And this is in recreational only, it's not in clubs. Did I get that right?
This is specific to facilities access.
Okay, yeah, just, so that's just something I'd like to get on the table and something for food for thought for council. Thank you.
Very well taken, Councillor. Thank you. Councillor Buckingham, and then I'll get Councillor Carson.
Thank you, Your Worship. Funny, Councillor Baker kind of touched on what I was going to touch on one point. And the second point I was going to bring up was Councillor Diachuk's to follow up on his, where I'm not sure how it works in getting the schools together on that, because schools will send out their swimming lessons thing and say, if you want to participate, send a check for $40 and be in there. So we have to be ahead of that with those students, just as an assignment.
Actually, if I just clarify, the swimming lessons in grade 4 are free in the public system. So there's no fee expected for them, so it may be different with each school, but that's a fair point.
Councillor Torres.
Sure. Go ahead, did you have something?
Just to add, I realize it would be different things. So the school would pay admission to the facility, I assume, to that program. What we currently are proposing is sort of the most pared down version. So it strictly speaks to the membership and admission with sort of the intent to look at adding programs and other aspects to it at a later date once we get good and kind of work out some of the bugs in the evaluation and administration process. But I think when the schools come to the pools, the school itself will pay the admission, and then so it's more of an admission function than a lesson function, correct?
Yeah, I think around the music lessons it's different because the division pays for it, at least the public school division does. I'm just thinking as well is that you have year-end parties, social and recreational activities, even attending the multiplex or service sports center in terms of organized events, and I'm just trying to see how we work it, because if I'm the teacher collecting, or Jonathan's the teacher collecting, goes, oh yeah, Michael, you only owe $1, and oh, by the way, Patrick, you owe $5. And that can be awkward, but we want to find a way to be able to acknowledge that in some way where they're also going to be involved in the process. So, I mean, I like it. It's just logistical stuff that I think sort of some discussion has to happen in advance so people are aware that, back to one of your concerns you had at the beginning, is maintaining the privacy and discretion of the people involved.
Thank you, Your Worship. I had a quick question just around part of this. So I would assume that the people working in the social programs and everything, they would all, do non-disclosure agreements and have criminal record checks. I'm just curious on the practicality of these cards, because they are kind of, I would say, they're kind of conspicuous. So you can see that someone is in a low-income group because they're going into this thing because they pull out this card, and then whoever's working the desk that day. And I assume we hire people with high standards and everything, but I'm just curious on that side of protection of information, knowing that someone's in a low-income group because they pull the card. I don't know how that works or if it's no big deal, but I was just curious if you had any information on that.
It's not an uncommon practice within the different municipalities to utilize a card system. Now, in some communities, those are built more seamlessly into their system. So I'll use maybe City of Calgary, for example. They would have a card, and it would be more their recreation access card that you would just swipe and it would go right into the system. We're a little bit limited by the platform that we have right now. So, for example, Max doesn't have the fobs that are issued are simply a barcode. There's no way to identify who that is for until it's actually been swiped through the system, and typically they're associated with memberships. So we could use that fob system to this system, but then it would eliminate our ability to do the admission discount. And we feel it's important to offer the admissions as well, because there will be some families and some individuals in this community that their uptake on this will be one visit to the facility a month, maybe over the course of the year, and membership really isn't the value there for them that it would be for other users that would use it on a more regular basis. And we want to try to be as agile as possible in how we deliver this, so that we're not forcing people to say, yes, you must buy a membership. We're trying to set it up so that they can buy the membership or buy the admission as they go. And it gives them a little bit more freedom depending on their financial situation.
Okay. So just to clarify, there's no way that you can use the key fob system that still requires someone to pay at enter, or when they enter? Or would that not have, I guess it would have the same effect as the other card, but I'm trying to think about a way that's a little more inconspicuous, where it's just kind of looks like a regular person going in.
At the counter, with whether it's the fob or whether it's the discount card, they would still be identified to that person, the staff that working the till, that they receiving the discount.
Okay, and maybe it's a non-issue. Maybe that's, you know, the same that happens for other kinds of programs that people, you know, administer all over the city for different things. Just curious. Thank you.
Councilor Miller?
Just to follow up to that question by Councilor Thorson, not so much the person at the desk actually identifying that, but say a teenage boy's going with his buddies, that's more where it would maybe stand out a little bit and the friends are like, hey, what's that for? So if we could have it so that it was more just like the fob barcode, and when you swipe your barcode, then it just says, oh, you owe $1, or whatever the difference would be. Is there any possibility that way?
We did look at that as a potential model using the barcodes. Having worked with VSAs, feel free to join me.
So I think logistically at the till, that would be very hard to do at places like Service Sportscenter. You're swiping that card in, and then a message pops up on the screen, which is can be seen by almost all the public. I think that having a card where they just show would be a little bit less noticeable, to be honest. Yeah, I think logistically at the till it could be hard. Service Sportscenter, you swipe in almost after the till, so then you'd have to swipe in and then come back and pay. So we did think about this, and this is the best way we could think of it.
Yeah, because just the way that I think about it kind of is that people are mean. Kids could sometimes be a bit of a bully, right? And if they see that their friend is using a pass that means that maybe their parents aren't as economically and financially fit as others, is that going to put them in an uncomfortable situation? I don't know. Maybe not?
I've got Councilor Fagin.
Yeah, I was just on the same topic. I had the same theories here as both Councilor Monroe and Councilor Thorson. And I guess, is it a software issue? Could that be? Is there something that software can be purchased to give more flexibility overall for the system? Is it an outdated system that we're currently using for?
We do have a new software that IT is looking for us. We have a capital purchase for a new recognition software. So this is one of the things we definitely can review as we go through that process. I'm unaware of software systems that might be easier. You'd have to set them up like a membership almost, but they're not a membership, they're paying admission. So that's the part that would be very hard to figure out, but it's definitely something we can add on to looking at as we review software systems.
Yeah, no, that's great. Well, this the community social needs assessment that was done last spring. It's great to see that there's some action that's starting to be taken on that. And I think you guys did a very good job getting us to this point. So, well done.
Good, Councilor Chapter.
I was going to say, I think, you know, we need to just start and get the project going, then work the bugs out. I think, you know, we can't stall it because for fear that we might make a mistake. We will count on it, and then the job is to fix it as we go along. Will kids react and treat each other in particular ways? Yeah, count on it. They do now without the cards. So likely they may do it with the cards. So we need to come to expect that. But I think part of it is just to be aware of what some of those pitfalls are as we go along and involve other agencies. And I'm just thinking, even as a statement in this draft of the policy, is that, you know, the intent is to work with other agencies in the community as much as possible to provide these services. And so if you feel like adding it in there, I think it would be a strong addition to it, because it's not just you going alone, and you're really talking about making it a partnership in the broader community. So that's all I would add to it.
Councilor.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, it's kind of along the lines of what I was thinking is, I guess we could try and solve all the potential here at the table today and send it back and rewrite it, but at the end of the day, we may be talking about things that are issues that people actually encounter, and I guess that'll be really important to get that feedback through your surveys that you're going to get after the first year. So, you know, if there are changes and adjustments that need to be made to which cards or how you're doing it, I guess see if it's an issue and then solve it. Other than that, though, I just wanted to say I think it's great. I think it's a good program overall. I was reading something not too long ago about the area we live in, and this area of the country has the highest income mobility in all of the country, meaning that someone whose parents are in a lower tax bracket, the next generation, has a high probability of being a higher tax bracket than their parents were. So that's why things like this not only are important for the recreational side too, but you know, if we're still playing the long game on building a community that provides great quality of life, and then providing a community where people want to come back to after they're all grown up. I know that's one of the things that drew me back to Lloydminster was I was a skateboard kid, and I used public services every day of the week, and I had a real connection to the community because of it. So then that really made me come back to Lloydminster. So I just see this as being another variation on that same thing. You just might have a different thing that's your thing. So I think it's a great program, and looking forward to coming to a council meeting. Thanks.
I just want to add one more thing that I think is really important in that when we were developing a drug strategy many, many years ago, and it was Mayor Baker was the worship the mayor of the day, and I was involved in putting the drug strategy together. One of the key elements they talked about in there is making sure that you develop the assets of your community and making sure that the youth actually access and use those assets, because otherwise they'll find other things to do with their time. And I think that this is an important piece to keep in mind. Will there be challenges? Absolutely. But as you say, it's Jonathan saying the long game, and the fact that our youth are using these assets means they're busy swimming or skating or doing something as opposed to something else which could be far, far worse.
Patrick, thank you very much for the presentation. One note I had on my, as you were speaking, FCSS is not rich with resources. You have a limited staff. You see it impeding this more applications and some more paperwork on you and your staff, because that's really what it comes down to. If you're going to do the first line, that's where the rubber hits the road. I think Joel's team delivers at the backside, but you've got the paperwork at the front end. Is that going to be a problem?
We went into this year with the optimism that we would be taking on this program, and we have moved and adjusted some of our workload to accommodate it. So while I will say our department does a lot of things, we are comfortable to say that we can take on this as one more on that list, and we'll deliver an excellent program if given the opportunity.
Terrific. Well, thank you. And I think it's been said, I think the health of the community, this just speaks to the health of the community. That survey did earlier that you undertook and had a lot to do with. I think this speaks a great deal to the health of our community, to all residents, and trying to take down the barriers that exist. We know there are financial barriers, there's issues, and I think this is one way to try and offer from the city, and I think all taxpayers, because a healthier community is a better community, and in the long run, hopefully it costs us less. So I'm certainly, I think it's a great idea, and I look forward to it. Since I'm getting this, I think it's, we're ready to come back to council with it, and I think after a year, I look forward to, if council is so agreeable and proceeds with it, we can look forward to a report and see where we're at, and fine too, because I think it was discussed, everything's always going to have improvement, and I appreciate making the effort that you've done. You've come together with a great policy, and we appreciate it. So, thank you very much. City Manager, thank you.
Thank you, Worship. To discuss 4.2 governance document review schedule policy suite. I'll ask Dan also to come forward.
Good afternoon, Your Worship, councillors. I'm here this afternoon to talk to you today about governance documents. Couldn't let Patrick be the only one with the slide today, so we do have one coming up for you. So we're often asked in legislative services, can we get a list of policies that we need to make, or upcoming ones and where we have shortcomings? And we've tried many times to get this list, and priorities across the organizations change, and these lists are ever changing, and we find it very hard to stick with creating new policies in an order that we've prescribed. So clearly we've had an organizational shift to focus on policy, and this is a great thing for us. Our emphasis to date has been on new policy creation. However, we have quite a few outdated governance documents. And by governance documents, I mean bylaws, policies, and directives. So currently we have 171 bylaws. I'll highlight is our street numbering bylaw, which dates back to 1947, as well as the senior housing bylaw, which dates back to 1959. From there, it continues 60s, 70s, and so on. We have 59 policies currently. oldest being 1983, appointment to boards and committees, and the current council remuneration policy was drafted in 1988, and it's just had some fixes along the way, which is the one you guys follow today. We've had 7 directives created. These are all new. They've been created in the last year and are up to date. But we do have some compliance issues as we lack an understanding of all the governance documents that we currently have. So again, I just wanted to speak to, we're acknowledging the policy cycle now, and it's an ever-changing atmosphere. As Councillor Diachuk just said, we're going to make mistakes in this first draft. We realize that. We're planning on correcting them, and so on and so forth, until we get, if we ever get there, that perfect draft that works. So what we've done is we've created an Excel database where we've taken every policy, bylaw, directive, and put them in here. This is just a snapshot of that. So basically it sets out the adoption date, when it was last reviewed. As you can see, that's a blank column across the board here. And then what we're proposing for its next review date. So this is how we're preparing right now to track everything that we're doing across the organization from a governance document standpoint. So this would be managed by the policy coordinator. We're proposing around 30 to 40 documents a year get reviewed. So that puts us about seven years to get everything cleaned up fully. And that's accounting for new policies and bylaws that we're passing today. Seems like a long time, but we're fairly confident 30 to 40 is a pretty aggressive approach to this. So again, we're focused on driving a review of what we currently have. That said, from the policy coordinator standpoint, my vision is not to be driving new policy creation, but when approached for support, absolutely providing that support and helping departments and yourselves draft policy, just not making that my main focus. Again, with this schedule, documents can be reviewed at any point. So we're not saying it has to be reviewed in X years. It can be reviewed earlier. If legislation changes or anything like that, we'll have to abide by that and update our documents as needed. So organizational buy-in for this type of project is key. So you'll see here just basically the 2019 review schedule. This is what we're proposing for 2019. We've kind of gone ahead and done some of the background work already for Q1. You'll see some notes there, but we are ready if we get the go-ahead from council to kind of roll this out right away and get going. And we've had conversations with managers across the organization already. Everyone knows that this is kind of the approach we're looking to take. So with that said, I've attached the policy and directive in the agenda package for your review, and that'll basically set out the responsibilities and processes for this whole procedure. There's built-in reporting to council and ELT quarterly. There's guidelines on how to update formats and make grammatical corrections if needed in any bylaws or policies. And the review schedule is noted there. So we're looking at directives every 4 years, financial policies 2, personnel 2, other 3, and bylaws at 4. So that's basically at a high level what I'm proposing here today. I'm happy to address any comments or questions that anyone may have.
Councilor Monroe?
I think it's obvious how much work went into this. I really appreciate this document. Obviously, it's necessary to keep prioritizing and know when we need to renew our policies and our bylaws so we don't end up with a 30-year-old policy, such as when we came in to council. So I think having a document like this makes everything in the over a 7-year process is probably the perfect time, really. Yeah, so I'm just commending you on the amount of work because a lot of tedious numbers and I'm sure a lot of research had to go into creating this document, so thank you very much.
Councilor Torson?
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, I want to say, looks good, logical, makes sense. I think that, this entire thing just provides a good map for the right things to do in the right order. It really is a continuation for me of the governance review that we did a few years back saying, hey, where's your guys' policies on all these things? And yeah, we've cleaned up a lot of those key ones, but the reality is we have to stay on top of them in general so that we can keep it, functioning like a well-oiled machine. But I do agree that if there's one thing I'm sure of, is that this list is gonna be totally wrong in terms of when things are gonna be done, because some provincial government law change or some new technology will come out that will totally change everything, that these things will have to be reviewed sooner, but, you know, it's like a budget. They're, you know, a great plan up until like the end of the first month, and totally different from whatever you plan to do. So, not the city budget, I'm referring to other budgets. But yeah, it looks good, and it's good to see. You know, a systemized plan and a map kind of to direct us where we need to go as far as bylaws and policies. The one other thing I was curious about was, like, my one question was just around directives. So I don't think we've seen a lot of directives come our way. Is that internal directives? So how you apply policies or procedures or bylaws?
Yeah, exactly.
Good.
Other questions or comments? I guess it's nice to know that I believe there's a book that's been published that has one of our famous bylaws that we couldn't store manure or straw in the city, and I think that's been struck by the looks of it. That goes back to the early 1900s, but 1947 is definitely a bylaw that definitely is looking like we could use a little review in 1959. So I appreciate the efforts, Dan, that you've undertaken to bring this forward, because I think that's the important part of it. Governance is only as good as the process and the documents that we follow. So I appreciate that very much, and I think that this is a great start. As I look at the 19 proposed schedule, we may need to, you know, it's going to be a managing of certain people, because as I see owners of some of these various things, some areas are weighted per quarter, and they may find themselves a little bit stressed at certain times. And I'll use Q4. I see our finance team is going to have a fair amount of work going into a budget and covering off some policies. So my thought would be we may need to ask administration to look at that and make sure that they get that balance there. But otherwise, I appreciate very much laying out and seeing some repeals, because that gets rid of some old bylaws and cleans up some things. So that's off to you. Thank you very much.
Just for yourself, Bishop, and if there's any members of the administration watching, we did do a little bit of thought in there. So as you can see, we have that operating budget policy in Q1 that we're looking to replace. So we are currently working now on a reserve and budget surplus policy. So that will take away a lot of what we're looking at in Q4 for finance, because that will be checked off the list there. As well as a review on some of these policies or bylaws, are simply just gave it a read through. This looks great. We still use it today. Everything's great. It could be a matter of minutes, and as you noted there, it could be a long time to review.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
It's an operational kind of thing, I guess. What I'm just thinking is policies are reviewed, and many other organizations will see at the bottom, must be reviewed by 2024. So even on the policy itself, if you're a user in the community and log in, you know that, oh, it's 2023, so they're reviewing this next year. So it allows the community an opportunity to anticipate that as well. They may not be interested in looking at the list, but they would be perhaps interested in looking at the bylaw or the policy. And if we have that review date embedded on that document, it would also flag to the community members that, you know, there is this process that does occur there. Yeah, I had one other, but I can't remember what it is. But it's just how we implement that piece. The other part would be, as Mrs. Cummins said, as we're going through this, are we putting in our website in a way that makes more sense, or makes sense in a way with the table of contents, with links right from the number and all that kind of stuff, and where are we at with that?
So the way our website we're setting up now is basically in the categories that you've seen here. So except it's finance, council, personnel, and then operations is kind of how we categorize it right now. As we move forward, we're certainly going to look at reviewing that along the way, but that's how it's on the website today, and I think it's working well, but we're always open to feedback.
I guess I better go look at it.
Any other comments? From, again, based on comments around the table, I think council's right to ready for this to come forward and move forward with action on this.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, Dan. Moving back to the agenda, I don't see any media present with us today. Follow to the committee to the direction on a recess.
Okay. Motion recess for 5 minutes.
Councillor, seconded by Councillor Fagner. All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
take my picture right away. Get rid of my mustache. Technology's changed. Technology.
Oh, no, no, sorry. Okay, so here we go. Oh, no.
Like the director at this gun? Yeah. What the hell does he know about policy? The guy made the Alien movies. Prometheus, Predator.
That's my friend. I never said, I can tell you, I never knew what it was. Saying, what's the reason to do? He says, the command will come from him. Okay, good.
Don't take something jackets.
I think he's actually if I go to Cheryl for almost
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, no.
It's like a really old one too. I think we're talking about. Yeah, it's a lot. Yeah, some say bread, or don't say bread, say herbs.
Yeah, that's not one.
See that, all or whatever is coming up? No. That's a sounds great in my head. Seems larger.
Well,